Ale has always been around because ale is the beer that is produced more or less at what we'll just call room temperatures, meaning without temperature control. And guess what? 10,000 years ago there was no electricity, so you can understand what I'm talking about. And in fact, the very first lager was only invented as recent as 150 years ago. So it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution where electricity was invented, but also refrigeration was invented, that allowed brewers to experiment with fermentation at lower temperatures. So this magic year, by the way, is 1842. So there is no such thing really as a commercially available lager product today that was created prior to 1842. So what is this difference? It's about temperature control, really. And this is a man-made thing, right? That's when electricity and refrigeration happened. So all beers until 1842 were ale, and that's a lot, that's many thousands of years. Lager is a modern invention, and it came with temperature control. And this very simple thing is that when brewers could control fermentation at lower temperatures, because there were certain other bacterial benefits, they soon found that the same yeast strains that would make ales traditionally would not work in the cooler temperatures. Soon enough, they found other strains that liked the cooler temperatures. And the very simplicity is, and this makes sense, at warmer temperatures, biological activity happens at faster rates. So if you've ever heard of minus 272 Kelvin, which is known as absolute zero, plus 15 degrees is warm. And quite often, top fermentation or ales is also known as warm fermentation. Lagers, on the other hand, tend to be fermented, say, below 5 degrees Celsius, which is not necessarily a natural temperature in nature that you would be making beer. And again, the yeast strains that were found that could work in that temperature work a lot slower. So instead of rising to the top, like they would in the case of an ale fermenter, they would actually work a little more slowly and lazily find their way down to the bottom. And this explains the bottom versus top definition, but it also explains why lager is known to have a little less robust flavor, let's just say, than an ale might. So the word lager is really the finishing piece on this discussion. The word lager is from the German word to store. And if you're making beer that's bottom fermentation and is relatively light tasting, as lager tends to be compared to ale, it means you're going to have to age the beer or store the beer to let any impurities or off taste settle out. And there's no modern method of removing these other than aging the beer. So one quality sign of a quality lager is length of aging. So we've talked a little more in depth here about lager and ale. Ale is really the historical, all beer has always been ale. Lager is a modern invention along with electricity and refrigeration in 1842 and is the preferred style in the world today.